Hello, everyone. My name is Courtney Pollock, and I'm the Marketing Coordinator for SWK Technologies. I'd like to welcome you to our webinar, 5 Ways to Improve Employee Engagement, Profitability, and Growth, presented by Workforce Go. Before we get started, let's go over some housekeeping items. Everyone has been placed on mute to keep the background noise to a minimum. However, throughout the webinar, you can submit any questions you have. If you'd like to submit a question, look for the questions section in your GoToWebinar or the chat box, and we'll answer all your questions at the end of the presentation. We're also recording this presentation, and it will be distributed tomorrow to all attendees, as well as those who registered but were unable to attend today. And finally, we would appreciate your participation in our closing poll and surveys. With that said, we appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to attend this webinar, and I'm going to let Kimber and Jessica kick it off for us.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Courtney. We're thrilled to be here today to talk to you about ways to improve employee engagement, profitability, and growth. I'm Kimber Crumlish. I'm the Director of Channel Development here at Workforce Go, and I'm joined today by Jessica Morrissey, who is a Regional Sales Manager with Workforce Go. All right, so since it's a new year and we're still in January, I thought it might make sense to kind of start with some of the trends that we're seeing this year as it relates to human capital management or managing your employees. The first trend that we're seeing in the data and the reports that are out there from folks like Gartner and SHRM and Deloitte, those are some of the organizations that really help us compile data and keep track of where things are headed. They all feel like we're adjusting to changes in our work boundaries. And that relates to both physical boundaries that are changing as well as more conceptual boundaries that are changing in the workplace and in your organization. And a lot of organizations are really taking a hard look at how their leaders and leadership and strategies will adjust to these new dynamics. How will you maintain your culture, your corporate culture in a hybrid working environment? Or if the nature of your work requires a physical presence, how will you compete for the talent against the organizations that don't, if that is important to the folks that you're trying to keep and attract to your organization? So we're always looking at the ways that work boundaries are changing, and with the pandemic, we've just seen an acceleration of those changes. Additionally, employee retention remains a hot topic in 2023. We have the perfect storm of conditions in the labor market right now, with still a low number of unemployed people, particularly for skilled or educated workers. That number is still pretty low, while the number of job openings is very high and continues to grow. And then if you add to that a stubbornly high quit rate among existing employees, this all just adds up to a lot of volatility in the human capital management and in the employee arena. So we're really emphasizing the importance of employee retention, because on average, it costs about 2 times the employee's annual salary to replace them. So we want to mitigate that risk to our organizations as much as we can. The third trend that we are watching, and seems to be pretty unanimous among all of our sources, is a focus on skills improvement. And one great employee retention strategy is to really place an ongoing investment in skills improvement. And not only does this strategy, really address some of your compliance requirements, but investing in training and mentoring and career pathing is a reliable strategy to address employee retention. In fact, in a recent survey of employees who resigned, about half of those listed to acquire new skills as one of their top reasons for leaving. And second behind that is that they didn't like their manager. So keep that in mind as well. Fourth on our list of trends is the future of work. And if you are looking for the hottest new corporate buzzword for 2023, this might be it, or buzz phrase, I should say. And this really means more than just planning ahead. It's putting the strategies and processes in place to adapt to the future needs of your organization, like the impact of AI. There was something on the Today Show about that this morning, so it's very top of mind. Shifting skill sets among your employees, scarce talent, high turnover, and really just an overall shift, probably one of the biggest we've seen, certainly in my lifetime, in the employee-employer dynamic. So we're not just solving for today's needs, we're really having a future or look ahead approach to what you might need in the future as your organization grows. And finally, the investment in technology continues. The world of work has reached, really a pivotal turning point, and the solutions and services and systems that you use really have to keep pace with these trends. And at a time when about 34%, or I should say only about 34% of employees consider themselves fully engaged in their work, which is the lowest that stat has been in over a decade, technology is going to play an ever-increasing role in keeping those teams connected and cohesive and engaged within your organization. So you'll really need to think about embracing solutions that feature a people first or employees first philosophy, or really risk being left behind. All right, so let's talk about some of the ways to address these trends and improve employee engagement, profitability, and growth. The first is to invest in a unified system, one with a single source of truth for all of your employee data as it relates to human resources, payroll, and timekeeping. That system should be mobile ready for all employee touch points. Gone are the days when we want to, hold our employees to sitting down at a desk, right? We're all on the go constantly. We need to be able to get to our information, make changes to that data. And that should be true whether we're looking at an HR benefits item that we need to adjust, or if I need to pull up my W-2 while I'm, trying to apply for a loan or something like that. Should be mobile ready across all touch points. We also have to take a hard look at eliminating our manual processes. They're bogging down your employees and they're hindering your productivity. And the days of being able to get away with, we'll just deal with that later, are really coming to an end. And we have to really take a hard look at eliminating those. Engaging employees through surveys or training and activities that drive home your corporate culture. You want to use the data that you have available about your employees to make adjustments in how you keep them engaged within your organization. Otherwise, you risk losing them. And finally, you want to leverage a modern system that's cohesive. It's cloud-based, it's accessible from anywhere or any job site, and it makes sure that it talks to your financial systems. Again, eliminating those manual processes. At Workforce Go, we believe that work is personal. There's probably nothing more personal that you do for your employees than to make sure that they get paid on time, or that when they take their kids to the doctor, their benefits information is properly available to them and to their healthcare providers. The list goes on, but it really is a personal experience for your employees. And our vision is to make more meaningful and connected work experiences by delivering those solutions. And I think these guys are so happy because they probably just got paid. So we really do take that charge or that mission very seriously here. So our HCM platform is flexible and seamless and includes all of the modules that you see here. So what we do with our clients is we have a very detailed and in-depth approach to getting to know what your priorities are, what challenges are you really focused on, and which of these modules are going to meet those needs. We have plenty of organizations that work with us that have all of these modules, but most of them don't start there. They'll start with their highest priority. Maybe that's human resources. Maybe recruiting has been, a huge pain point, which many people are experiencing that. Or onboarding might be something that you're looking for a more flexible and electronic process to, bring on your new employees. Regardless, you want the ability to add these modules or these these components as your organization's needs change and you grow to move into needing these options. I mentioned earlier that interface with your accounting or financial system. I have some examples of how we do that here. We work with Acumatica. I know a few of you work with that system. You may work with another. They all kind of work the same, but we really want to make sure that we're sharing the pertinent and critical employee and organizational data among systems so that you can really gain the most efficiencies out of the systems that you have in place. And you can kind of see the data flow back and forth here with our Acumatica interface, as well as that with Sage Intacct, again, just giving you some examples, and we have others. But it gives you a sense of how those systems really need to talk to each other. And we've got a lot of clients today that are taking advantage of this flexibility so that their HR platform and payroll platform will interact with their ERP or accounting system. All right, so with that, raise your hand if you would like for Jessica to show us a little bit of the beauty of the Workforce Go HCM platform. She's going to just give you a quick overview of the system, pick up on some of the points that I mentioned, just kind of give you a look and feel of what the system can do for you.
All right, thank you, Kimber. And look, everybody's raising their hands, so I guess I'll go ahead.
I figured they would.
All right, I'm going to share my screen here. All right, so we should be seeing the system now. Kimber, can you just confirm?
Yeah, you're good. I see.
All right, perfect. So, you know, certainly we're here to kind of educate you on what systems can do. And I know that many of you are on, you know, a Sage 100 platform, perhaps other types of payroll systems today, maybe payroll services. And so we know that, you know, payroll can be a bear. And then if you add to it some of the other HR functions that you're expected to do or that you maybe aren't as comfortable with, but are part of your purview anyway, since you do payroll, you might as well do HR. So I know there's going to be, amongst those that are attending and listening in on this recording, a mixed bag of where you might fall into that. So as Kimber alluded to, you know, having a system in place certainly helps you do what you are expected to do in your role in a little bit more of an efficient way. It brings all of it together. You know, I've been doing this for about 20 years myself, and my job is to talk to clients like yourselves and see where they're at in their processing today, where they're, you know, doing things that could be improved upon, and kind of help, you know, change some of those business processes, you know, with the system or with some training or, you know, other resources that we might be able to guide them towards. So, you know, for today, what I wanted to give you a kind of a sense for is, you know, for those that are just doing manual processes today, just to give you an idea of what a system does have in it that can help with these new trends that we're seeing, the change of the workforce, and, you know, all of that that's coming in 2023 and beyond. So the platform is, in this particular case, it's web-based. It's all one employee records, so that stops you from doing duplicate entry into multiple systems. And, you know, if you update a benefit, it's updating your payroll deduction if it's appropriate too. If it's tracking time off, it's putting it on the timesheet, or it's, you know, updating accruals. So everything becomes something that you could roll out as a self-service to help with the employees, you know, as Kimber said, getting into information, you know, on their mobile devices if they're sitting at a bank or wanting to get a car loan or something like that. So, you know, this would allow you to decide, you know, what do they need to have, what's important to our particular business culture, you know, that I want to share with them, and so forth. So I'm going to take you through just a couple of different areas that kind of talk to the different trends that Kimber highlighted earlier. You know, with the work boundaries, employee engagement and retention and so forth, you know, it's no secret. We all know that we expect things to be on our phone, and when they're not, we get a little frustrated. Well, why can't I just get to it here? We expect it these days, and that's no different with your employee information and your pay and all of that. So as far as the employees are concerned, they'd be able to get into any of the items that you want them to. You can do a company announcements if you want to highlight a employee of the month or some other type of recognition program. You want to embed some videos out here, something about projects, or in our case, social media that we have. So there's any number of different ways that you might share, and you can obviously add a lot more to this, but having a system like this gives you one platform for people to go to interact with, you know, maybe company, sorry, I'm not sure if you heard my cat, sorry about that. So, you know, I'm not with company picnics or other sign-up sheets, you could put them out here and have a place for them to go. That's one area of ways that we can help with employee engagement and so forth. Getting surveys out there, employee satisfaction surveys, manager surveys, you know, more ongoing surveys. You could even use these for exit interviews and other things, you know, if you do have turnover. So there's any number of ways that you might kind of start checking in and taking a you know, quick survey on how's it going, how are we doing, you know, there's a new manager that started, you know, what are the thoughts around, you know, how they're doing, and these can be anonymous or not. As far as the retention, you know, getting employees in the door, you know, that is their first interaction with you. So going through a you know, seamless recruiting experience, being able to, you know, apply for jobs, you know, with a quick apply through Indeed, et cetera, all of that, and then going into onboarding and doing all of that electronically. Those are definitely areas that we also have and we see in more modern systems. And I'm not in as Josh right now, so I'll show you that when I log in as the employee, just to kind of show you what some of that looks like. But we can go through entirely paperless onboarding, benefit enrollment, and all of that, so that they're feeling that they have the control, they're able to do it, and they're not spending their first days with you sitting down at a desk or doing that. Now, the question comes up frequently too as I talk with people. Do we have to have everything done electronically in a system like this? No, because not everybody is going to do that. There may be some reasons that they're not comfortable with it, or they, you know, just don't have the accessibility for it. So you can certainly be flexible with your workforce and keep the human and human resources and still sit with them and do all of that. So it's not that you have to be completely hands-off if you put a system in place. As far as some of the other areas that we can help with, we do have full learning management. And again, that skills retention or skills improvement, what folks expect to, you know, have as development as they're, you know, working with you and moving through their time with you. They expect to be able to get some additional benefit, whether it's content that you directly administer for them, or if you have web-based types of classes that we're having assigned to them as a new employee, they might get certain classes automatically assigned, annual trainings, etc. So these are just an example of what you might be able to help facilitate if you're not doing it today, or if you have another service. You know, it's still a different place for the employees to go. This puts it all under one location for them and one area to administer for you, so you can cross-report and do any other analytics that you might need. Okay, so the skills, the ongoing training, all of those things are certainly something that you could roll out in a platform like this. In addition to that, of course, is the performance reviews. You know, one of the trends that I have seen as I talk with clients is that more people are going from just the annual review into doing a more frequent, more frequent feedback. So doing KPIs or goals, and they're doing, you know, more standardized one-on-ones, whether it's once a week or once a month and so forth. And those are things that we can assist with. We have the full goal capability in here, as well as the ability to do a review. And I'm just going to take you into a review here just to kind of show you what that could look like. So the reviews are, again, part of the system. So as a manager coming into this, or as an administrator, I can see what I'm being measured on, how it's weighted, and go through and do the reviews. A lot of companies still do this on paper, SharePoint, Excel, etc. But this gives that access online, and it also allows them to see anything else that might be required to help with that review process with the one-on-one. So if we wanted to do a weekly one-on-one, let's see if I can find some in here for goals. Aha, do a good job. Here's one of my goals. So this is a KPI that I had measured. So I could see a description, and I could come in here and see all of the notes that were kept throughout the ongoing one-on-ones. So having this feedback capability, having it accessible as performance reviews are done, helps the employees get that feedback they're looking for, helps identify issues before they become a problem. And then based on performance reviews or goals and results of those goals, you can assign merit increases. You might assign a training program for them to improve upon and move up to the next level, or if they're not performing well enough and their attitude is such, you may decide to terminate, and we can help kick off and keep those types of processes in line as well. So keeping feedback going, being able to have the employees get what they need, being able to assign learning, help them with their skills development, all of that is certainly something that we could address. I'm going to log in as an employee just so you can kind of see some of the employees look and feel of the system and what I've set up in my particular demo company for my employee to have access to. So I've got far less information here because I am signing on as an employee. But as an employee, I see everything I need. I've got my timesheet at my fingertips, so I can clock in, clock out. I can come in, and if I forgot to punch in, I can come in and see, oh, look, there's a missing punch, and now I'm going to do a change request, so I can be more responsible for my own information, or signing off and attesting to the fact that I received all my breaks, I was not injured, and whatever other types of things you might want them to address. My particular company is set up to do allocations at several different levels, but any timesheet information could be tailored to what your specific business needs are. So the timesheet information, the ability to allocate time, job cost is a big area, that we find manual input and processes in place quite frequently as clients come to us. But that's a big area that we could certainly assist with. But employees seeing their pay, opening up a pay statement on the go, W-2s, 1095, same thing. All of that is accessible on the mobile app, so it gives them what they need when they need it. Time off, being able to request those. This is a big area that I know even folks that have timesheets or another time system, time off and accruals is often an area where they still may have manual processes, or the system they have in place doesn't allow for time off. So this is something that, again, for employees that are like, I just went through this myself. I'm planning a couple vacations this year, and I'm like, well, how much time do I have? We use this system internally. I didn't have to call my manager and have her contact HR and say, how much time does Jessica have to take, and all of that some companies do. I looked here, I said, oh, look, I have lots of vacation time. I'm going to take it. And I can come in and see holidays. I can request all through the mobile app if I choose. If we're tracking schedules, I can see my schedule. I can see blackout dates and so forth. So a lot of that information that, without a system in place, you have to have the employees take time out of their day or during their personal time to connect with somebody and, follow up if somebody's on vacation. They don't have to do any of that. It's so much better. And again, with mobile workforce and all of the changes that happen with COVID, people just expect this to be at their fingertips. So this definitely would be helpful. I want to show you the onboarding just to give you an example of what that can look like. I created an onboarding process in here. And just to give you an idea, for new hires, you could have a step-by-step process for them to follow. So you go through the hiring process, get them, on board, go through background screens, go through, all the things that you're trying to get just to qualify them as a candidate, the offer letter and so forth. We can help with all of that. But when it comes time for the employee to actually complete paperwork or do other tasks, the onboarding process allows you to say, all right, well, this employee is in this department, so they need these particular types of forms. You don't have to print off a copy or email it and hope that they can print it, or maybe try to do Adobe Sign. Well, I don't know how to use Adobe Sign. So all of those things are avoided with just putting it into a system. And I say that jokingly about the printer, because I can't tell you how many times I have said to people, I don't have a printer, I can't print it. Don't expect me to print it. Can you send it through the email? I can sign it that way. Nope. Well, all right, I guess I'll run to Staples. It's a pain. So that alleviates that headache for your employees. The process too can be whatever you want. So for the employee, they're filling out, maybe they're signing off on handbook acknowledgement. Maybe they are doing, my example is very basic, but the Form I-9, they can come in and complete that electronically. State and federal W-4s. So they're coming in and filling everything out. You can mark fields as required. You don't have to recreate your forms. You're just uploading and making them fillable and deciding, well, what kind of field is it? Is it a drop down? Okay, well, what are the values that are going to be in the drop down list? Is it a radio button? Is it some other type of field? How long is the field, etc. So all of the forms that you might want them to complete, they can do themselves. And I'm just going to move on from that one. Direct deposit, even, adding as many different disbursements as they'd like. And as I'm talking about this payroll and the stubs and all of that, one thing I will say is that, I know many folks want to keep their payroll where it is and just maybe add HR to it. That's fine. With our particular system, you don't have to have payroll to use HR and time collection. You don't have to have HR and payroll to use time collection. You can kind of pick and choose different areas that you're trying to focus on so that you can bite off enough to get you where you need to be, and then add to things as you're able to or as they become more of a priority. Okay, so it doesn't have to be all inclusive, but they're able to really do as much as you'd like them to do going through their open enrollment. I've done this a few times, you can see, but I'm just going to edit this so you can get a quick look at what an online enrollment capability would be. If you've got through your broker, if you have Employee Navigator or Ease or the Bernie portal, those types of platforms, you're going to be seeing pretty similar functionality through here. What's nice about this, though, is that you can have the employee go through all of this. It will automatically update your payroll as needed, and it will automatically communicate the changes out to the carrier. So there's nothing more that you need to do. It also keeps it up to date for ACA. So if you're over 50 employees and reporting for Affordable Care Act, it's going to track all of the information along with their hours worked and whether or not they're part-time, full-time, and so forth. So all of that type of data is, by having the employee go through and track benefits in our system, allows all of that to happen without you needing to do any of that. So for benefit enrollment, any type of plan that you have becomes accessible. They can start and stop. They can compare plans even. They want to see what their contribution might be between the two different types of plans that you offer, maybe a primary office visit. And now I can see them side by side. Okay. So again, more often than not, employees want to sit at home and think about this, really look at what their insurance requirements are, what the costs are going to be, maybe what providers are covered. All of that you can put at their fingertips to do at their leisure without needing to kill a million trees to print it all and hand it to them. Okay. All right. So I think for as far as where we'd see our employees getting the benefit of, having a modern system. They're going to see everything that they need to see and be able to do everything across payroll, time, and HR, depending on what you want to roll out for them. They can come into their hub, they can see their announcements, they can see other things that are important for them, depending on what you want to put out there. We do also have the ability to communicate, and most modern systems do today as well. If you've not looked at them in a bit, or if you have been, one of the things that we can do is communicate to your employees. So if you want to send notifications that, hey, your timesheets are due, stops you from having to follow up as much perhaps with them. It also reminds them, they can take care of time or payroll or benefits in some way, shape, or form before it becomes a problem. Or, if they're on vacation, maybe they could quickly log in and do whatever they need to do to submit their time. So we can notify folks through email, we can do push notifications on the app, and we even have the ability to text notifications. So, keeping your employees up to date of what's required of them, reminding them as things become due. You're going to be able to kind of be a little bit more hands-off with that. We're going to communicate with the employees in a way that's impactful for them and gives them a platform to come into to manage everything in one place instead of multiple. Okay. So I think as far as a system overview, I know that there's a lot more that we could potentially cover. I'm happy to take any questions if anybody has questions around things that they are seeing in the market or things that they're having struggles with today that might be something a system could help with.
And just to chime in for Jessica there, if you do have any questions, make sure you put them in the questions section or the chat so that I can read those out. I see we have some hands raised, so you'll have to put the question in our question section for us to be able to, give you a response.
And Jessica, while we're waiting for those questions to be typed in there, do you want to talk about or expand on the integration capabilities a little bit? Just the quick touch points. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So we do integrate to a few platforms. And we can work with systems that we don't have a direct API integration to. So Kimber showed you the integration points for the Acumatica, for Sage Intacct. Those two options are through a direct API to and from those systems. For anybody that's on the Sage 300 CRE, the old Timberline, for those of you that have been around as long as we have, we have an integration to that as well. That's more of a file share rather than a direct API. So, I talked with a client yesterday, in fact, that's wanting to use just our time and labor with their Sage 300 payroll, keeping those two in sync. So the integration is really tight. It's really beneficial as well. As I mentioned earlier, if you don't want to change your payroll, the integration can become very key for you there. We do also work with Sage 100, whether it's Sage 100 Contractor or the Master Builder. We can create custom exports to be automated and imported into those platforms.
Regarding Sage 100, Jessica, the first question was how does this system integrate with Sage 100, which I think we just covered. But specifically wondering if they can integrate the time and EE record directly into Sage using the PR module. And is the export using CSV or something else?
We can export into CSV, Excel, HTML, XML, all the L's. So we can export it into a multitude of formats. And the way that we work specifically with Sage 100, the old MAS 90, not the Sage 100 Contractor, important distinction. But the way that we work with the Sage 100 is to share employee information, time, payroll, record with the, we export it to a secure location, and then through VI import that pulls the data in. The one caveat with the Sage 100 is that we can't create a new hire record from an import in Sage 100. So that means that you have to have a basic employee number, name record set up in Sage 100 in order for us to then continue with the sharing of information and updating of information from there. And that's simply a limitation because of the technology that Sage 100 is written in. So, but that we get you as close as we can there.
So I'm trying to follow some of these questions here. So I'm thinking we've got that, you know, with Sage, you have to, you know, be a little bit more, put a little bit more information in because it's not that full cloud technology. But I've got a question on what info can be exported, I'm thinking. If that was your question and I'm reading it wrong, please, you know, clarify a little bit. But I think we want to know, you know, what information can be exported.
Is available. Yeah, so we don't have any limit on what we can share as long as there's a home for it. And I'll give you an example. So we have, these are our imports, but these can also be exports that we send data out of, and I'll just use this as an easy illustration. So we might have, you know, any number of different things, benefit plans, education, you know, just the standard employee record, where we can track a whole host of information. So we might have a specific report that we create and automate as a report. And I'll show you another example of what the reporting could look like. No, I won't go into that one. I'll just go into the time report for here. So let's say I want to go into my calculated time report. So this is a report that I'm seeing here on screen. So we would decide, okay, well, what type of information do we want to share? We can add columns, we can change the headers to the columns, we can change the format in some cases, we can do custom columns, but you know, if we wanted to add, you know, something like a cell phone, for instance, to this particular report for some crazy reason, we can do that and decide where we want it to sit. Now I've got my cell phone here at the beginning, but then I can save this report as something very creative called new. I can make it the default and so forth. So you can toggle between multiple looks and feels. You can group and sort, etc. But if we want to consider what we might use for use in another system, we can choose to export and automate or schedule this to be exported if it makes sense. We pick our format. I'll just choose Excel. We can pick the settings for margins and headers and, you know, all of that. If I want to do different padding, if I don't want to use space, I want to use a dot because the system requires that. So just to give you a general idea, it's pretty configurable. So you can decide what you want it to look like, how you want it to be spaced, if it's padded or not. And then once you export it, and I'm just going to export it to Excel. It comes out in a usable format. So this is where we would talk with you, and I've got this one grouped, so that's why we're seeing it grouped here. But it tells you all the filters and sorts and so forth. But this is an example of, you know, how we would work with you to say, all right, well, what's important? How do you want it to come out? When do you want it to be sent? Where do you want it to be sent to? You know, the SWK folks would work with you if it was the Sage 100 on a VI import or, you know, some other mechanism to get it into the other system if it wasn't Acumatica or Intact that we have the API to.
Okay, great. That's awesome to know that it's so customizable how you can export that information from the system.
Yeah.
We have another question I think we can, take here while we're still in the demo. So we'd like to know, is the HR module required to have the learning module as well, or can it be standalone? And I think this would apply, to any of the modules.
The way that we configure the system is the time component can stand on its own. Payroll can stand on its own. HR can stand on its own. The learning management, benefits, recruiting, performance review, all of those require HR. So those are considered add-ons, if you will, to the HR. So if you wanted the LMS, you would need to have HR and LMS.
Okay, thank you. And do we gonna send it back to Kimber now?
Yes, I will say before I do that, the system is considerably vast. There's a lot of information that we have capabilities to track. Some clients are at a point of wanting to start with everything under the sun because they have that in another system today. Other folks need to do a very, slow-paced kind of adoption to getting people into a more electronic or self-service type of environment. So just know that, there's so much more that we can cover, that we can do in the system. It will involve more discussion and, about what your specific requirements are. Today is just kind of to give you an idea of, the things that we're seeing in the market, what we are hearing from clients and the survey, analytical folks that are out there, and what a system might look like that can help with those types of things to get you ready for 23 and on as far as managing the employees through that. So if this is something that you'd like more information about, that's where we'll get into some of those more in-depth conversations.
Yeah, sounds good, Jessica. And, I'll just mention there are so many nuances that you all experience based on the industry that you're in. So for our nonprofit attendees, there are some topics that we should probably cover that are specific to your organizational requirements and the way that you get grant funding and how we can accommodate some of those requirements. I think we have some construction or construction adjacent organizations here today. You definitely have your unique requirements, and we've got a lot of tools available to help you meet those. So we can do a deeper dive on the things that are specific and relevant to your organizations.
Okay, great.
Any more questions?
Yeah, do we have a few more questions? Do we want to open up Q&A while we're here, or switch back to the deck?
Jess, I'm good to take a few more if you're okay on time.
Yeah, no, I'm fine on time. We can leave it here in case there's something we'd like to show if there are questions. Yeah.
Okay. So another question we had was if you work with easy workforce timekeeping.
We don't directly. However, we do have a number of clients that may keep their existing time collection. And the way that we work with that is, to understand, first of all, that, keeping employee information up to date between the two. If you've got a number of turnover or any certain significant headcount, we have to consider, as far as keeping those two in sync with employees coming and going, updates and so forth. That's one area that we could export or, have you do duplicate entry if it's not a big undertaking. With the time that you've collected in there, it will depend on how that time is calculated. Does it come out of there with a full-time record, such as, calculation of overtime or shifts or tips and commissions and anything else that's due for the employee? Or will there be something that we need to do with it and you're just going to send us raw hours? So we have clients, like I said, that do work with third-party timekeeping systems for one reason or another. And then we just import that and determine what we need to do to apply pay rules to it, or, if it's what I call a fully baked file that we can just, throw in and get paid.
Okay, and on a similar subject, we also want to know if you have the certified payroll capability.
We do. We do. We have actually developed our own utilities on top of the platform to allow us to help with the certified payroll with the, and I'll just pull up a timesheet here to show you what that, some of that flexibility looks like. We have the ability to do prevailing wage rate tables and determination. We can get into unions and tracking of, union reporting requirements. The WH-347 is a standard report that comes with the system. We do also have the ability to update to LCP tracker. So my system here is set up for a construction payroll specifically. So what I want to show you over here is as employees clock in and out of different jobs, or you have your superintendent or project manager allocate their time to different jobs, we'll have rate tables that sit in the background that say, okay, well, this is a prevailing wage job, and so therefore we need to look at the employee's salary, we need to look at the prevailing wage rate and do the determination. Oh, wait, there's also some fringe benefits, and we're going to offset those fringes for the union employees. So there's a lot of complexity to, obviously, with certified and or union jobs that you may have, and we do have the rate table capabilities and the staff to help with those different components.
Okay, that's the last question we have right now. So we'll still, so why don't we, just to wrap up, we can run the poll and go back over to the deck. And if you have any other questions out there in the audience, we can go ahead and just get those in the question section. So Kimber, I'm going to pass it back to you.
Okay. And I'm really just going to wrap up with a big thank you. So thank you everyone for coming today. For more information, you can reach out to your SWK representative. You'll get the recording of this session, as Courtney mentioned, tomorrow. And feel free to share that with anybody else in your organization. We would be happy to regroup with anyone that may, want to do a deeper dive or just have follow-up questions for today that we didn't get to. But thank you all so much for coming. We love talking about this stuff, and we're just so appreciative of your time and your attention.
Thank you, everyone. And if you'd like to reach out, answer that post-webinar survey, and we'll reach out to you guys and get you more information from the Workforce Go team.
Thanks, everybody.
All right.